I want you to imagine a person who has absolutely no soul. A person who looks at employees not as human beings but as replaceable batteries. That was Miranda. She was the CEO's protege, the golden girl of the firm, and my direct supervisor for 3 agonizing years. Subscribe now for daily revenge stories just like this one. I post every single day. Now back to the hell Miranda created. Every morning I would wake up with a pit in my stomach, knowing that at some point during the day, Miranda would find a way to humiliate me in front of the entire office. She once made me redo a 200-page report because she didn't like the energy of the font. Not the size, not the readability, but the energy. That was her game. She wanted you to know that she owned your time, your brain, and your dignity. She was a master of the corporate microaggression. A raised eyebrow when you spoke, a heavy sigh when you presented a flawless analysis, and the constant, looming threat of a PIP or performance improvement plan, which everyone knew was just a slow-motion firing squad. But about 6 months ago, the dynamic shifted in a way I never saw coming. It started with a late-night email. "Stay behind after the 8 p.m. briefing, we need to discuss your future." I thought I was getting fired. My heart was pounding against my ribs as I walked into her glass-walled office. The city lights were glowing behind her, and she was sitting there sipping a glass of expensive red wine. She didn't look like the beast I knew from the boardroom. She looked soft. "Down," she said, her voice dropping an octave. She didn't ask about the quarterly projections. Instead, she asked me if I ever felt like I was meant for more than just crunching numbers. She leaned in, and I could smell her Chanel No. 5, a scent that used to trigger my fight-or-flight response, but now in the dim light it felt intoxicating. That was the first night she touched my hand. A lingering, intentional touch that sent a jolt through my system. I should have run. I should have reported it. But I was lonely, overworked, and honestly, I was mesmerized by the power she held. Next few months were a blur of adrenaline and secrecy. We were living a double life. From 9 to 5, she was the cold-hearted bitch who would scream at me for being 2 minutes late to a meeting. But after 6 p.m., when the janitors were the only ones left in the building, we were something else entirely. It was a sick, high-stakes game of hide and seek. She started giving me special assignments. These were projects that took me deep into the company's private ledgers. She told me she trusted only me to handle the sensitive stuff. "You're my director in waiting," she would whisper against my neck. I believed every word. I was doing the work of 3 people, fixing her mistakes and streamlining her departments, all while thinking I was the secret king of the office. I began to justify her cruelty to others. I thought I was the only one who saw the real her. I spent hours at my desk, long after everyone else had gone home, cleaning up her messy spreadsheets and hiding the gaps in her financial logic. I was her shield, her ghostwriter, and her lover. I felt like I was finally part of the elite. But then the cracks started to show. I noticed that some of the files I was optimizing had my digital signature already attached to them, even for tasks I hadn't completed yet. When I asked her about it, she just laughed it off and said it was a glitch in the new software. Like a fool, I let it slide because I wanted to believe in us. I wanted the promotion. I wanted the status. Drop a comment with "exposed" if you're still with me. It helps the channel big time. Let's finish this. The turning point came on a rainy Tuesday. Miranda had left her tablet unlocked in her office while she went to a high-stakes board meeting. I was in there to leave some reports on her desk, and a notification flashed on the screen. It was from another junior analyst, Dave. It said, "The penthouse is booked for Friday, boss. I finished the audit you asked for. Do I get my reward?" My blood ran cold. I picked up the tablet. I knew I shouldn't, but the monster of curiosity was already clawing at my chest. I started scrolling through her messages. It wasn't just Dave. It was 3 other guys, all analysts, all ambitious, all desperate for the same promotion she had promised me. She had a rotation. She was using all of us to build her empire. She called us her little work husbands in private emails to her friends, laughing about how easy it was to manipulate lonely, ambitious men with daddy issues. But the worst part wasn't the infidelity. It was a folder titled Contingency. Inside, I found a series of memos drafted to HR and the legal department. They were dated months in advance. In these memos, she was systematically building a case against me for financial negligence and unauthorized access to sensitive data. She was documenting every single special assignment she had given me, but framing them as if I had gone rogue to steal company funds. I realized then that she was siphoning millions into an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, and she was using my forged signature as the primary trail. If the IRS or the SEC ever came knocking, she had a mountain of evidence ready to bury me, while she walked away with enough money to retire in luxury. I was her fall guy. I was the lamb she was fattening up for the slaughter. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I just quietly put the tablet back and spent the next 3 weeks being the perfect, submissive analyst. But while she thought I was working on her spreadsheets, I was building my own contingency folder. I used my senior access to track every single penny she had moved. I recovered deleted emails where she discussed the little black book of analysts with her friends. I recorded our private sessions, where she admitted to bending the rules for the company's benefit. I waited for the annual shareholders meeting, the grand stage I needed. I didn't just want her fired, I wanted her erased. As she stood there in her $3,000 suit, lying to the people who funded her lifestyle, I hit the send button on a pre-timed script I'd written. The giant screens behind her didn't show the revenue growth she expected. Instead, they showed the little black book rankings. They showed the screenshots of her mocking the CEO's intelligence. And finally, they showed the ledger with the forged signatures, side by side with the metadata proving they were created on her personal laptop. The fallout was nuclear. Miranda turned white as a sheet as the entire board of directors realized they had been played by their star pupil. The room erupted into chaos. Security stepped in before she could even say a word. She was escorted out in handcuffs while the police were already seizing her assets. The company's stock took a 15% hit that day, and for a while, I was the most hated man in the building. My colleagues called me a traitor. My family told me I should have just quit. But as I watched her being led into the back of a police cruiser, I didn't feel like a traitor. I felt like a man who had finally taken his life back from a monster. Miranda is now serving a 7-year sentence for corporate fraud and identity theft. The company went through a massive restructuring, and I was offered a settlement to leave quietly. I took the money and disappeared. I don't work in finance anymore. I realized that the corporate ladder isn't just made of glass, it's made of bones. And sometimes, the only way to win the game is to burn the whole stadium down. I still wake up at 3 a.m. sometimes, smelling that Chanel No. 5. But then I remember the cold weight of the evidence I gathered and the look on her face when the truth hit the screen. I don't regret a single thing. I am not the hero of this story, and I am certainly not a saint. But I am free. And in a world run by Mirandas, that is the greatest revenge of all. I'm sitting here now in a quiet apartment halfway across the country, watching the rain hit the window. I've had a lot of time to think. Some people tell me I'm a hero for taking down a corporate predator. Others tell me I'm just as calculated and cold as she was. What do you think? Did she get what she deserved? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe for more daily stories. Peace.